I absolutely love coaching. I started off coaching in a junior high school, and I coached three sports. I coached football, basketball, and baseball. And that was also very common where coaches coached multiple sports. And even at the high school level, when I was there, that you coached multiple sports. The There's some advantages to that. I mean, you're coaching. You see different groups of kids with different skill sets. You're able to kind of maintain a consistency of your culture. I wouldn't have traded careers for anybody for anything. I mean, Bill Gates has nothing on me, and even though the paychecks weren't monetary, the paychecks were the lives of the kids. I mean, last Saturday we went to a wedding of a former player's daughter who I coached in 1973, and it was filled with his teammates. And those are the paychecks that come from being a coach. My father gave me some great advice. My father was an engineer at Hanford, and he gave me some great advice. He said, either pick a profession where you make so much money that you can enjoy every bit of your spare time because you can financially afford it, or pick a profession where you don't care how much you get paid. But he said, don't do something in between. And I think he was also very thankful and proud of the profession that I chose. I talked to coaches about the stages that coaches go through and the crossroads for those different stages. The first stage is the beginning stage of coaching. And you walk in thinking, Yahoo, this is going to be so fun. They're going to love me. I'm going to love them. We're going to win every game. They're going to be as motivated as I was. And everything's going to go perfect. And it doesn't take very long, maybe a couple of weeks, to kind of realize, oh my goodness, the time, the energy, the emotion, the different personalities, the parents, all these things I hadn't factored into this job that I hadn't thought about. I was thinking this is going to be very similar to being an athlete, and it's really a lot different. And then there's the last stage of coaching, which is burnout. I quit. I've had it. I've sacrificed too much. Maybe it's I'm not valued by my administration. Maybe it's more important to me than it is the kids. Maybe it is I've sacrificed too much of my family time. And burnout is a real thing. But when I was working for the NAI, working with our coaches around the country at the college level, what we were learning was a lot of the young coaches getting into the profession were going right from Yahoo, this is so great, to I quit. And we were losing them from the profession. So one of the things they asked me to do was to provide a path for coaches to stay in the profession. So if there's your beginning and your end stages, the stages in between are not necessarily sequential. They're just stages that coaches are in. One is what I call status quo coaching. I'm as good as I need to be. I don't need to go to clinics. I don't need to do a style check. I don't need to read. I don't need a mentor. I got this figured out. And normally when people think about status quo coaches, they think probably that's an older coach. Okay, which is true in some ways. I've been doing it this way for X number of years, and I pretty much got this figured out. But the truth is, a lot of status quo coaches are young coaches who win right out of the box. And they're like, okay, this isn't that tough. This is easy. I got this figured out. The crossroads for status quo coaches is the scoreboard, because eventually people who don't grow don't win. And if you're a competitive person, or you're coaching at a level where the outcome of games is important, pretty soon you get weeded out if you're status quo. And sometimes it might be kicking and screaming, but you get weeded out.
So are you saying it's actually good for that new coach to lose a few games to avoid
Absolutely.
that status quo?
Absolutely.
To go through that experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's always room for growth. There's always room for improvement. There's a whole lot more I need to learn. I need to have that growth mindset that Carol Dweck talks about in her book called Mindset. Then the other stage of coaching is the prove it stage of coaching. And I was never in status quo, but I look back at my career and I think there were probably a couple of times I fell into the prove it stage of coaching. And it's normally when I was taking over a new job and trying to establish success right away. Prove it stage of coaching is I got to prove myself. It's more about me. And I got to prove myself to the team, to the rest of the league, to the parents, to the community. I got to prove myself that I'm good at this. And what validates me, what proves that I'm good is one thing, the scoreboard. So the scoreboard gives me credibility. And so therefore you fall into these traps of using things that work quickly. Okay, for you're looking for quick success, and there's some traps that you can fall into when you're looking for shortcuts, and for example, motivating through fear. Okay, fear works. It's a strong motivator, but it's not nearly as strong as love and respect. And fear is not long term. It's just a short term fix, is all it is. And anyway, the prove it stage of coaching, it isn't horrible, but it isn't the right focus. All right. And I look back now at a couple times in my career where I was walking into a situation where I was kind of an unknown, and I was taking over a program that hadn't been very successful, and I was trying to change the culture and change the mindset of the players very quickly. And I think I was so intent on providing performance outcomes that I lost my connection with some of those teams, lost my connection with individual kids. The stage that we want to get our coaches into and stay in is what we call coaching for significance. It doesn't mean that you're not competitive. I think it allows you to be much more competitive, very honestly. It doesn't mean that you don't love the technical parts of the game, because the first way you gain credibility is your knowledge. So you should never stop growing in the technical part of the game. But basically, it's in a short window. What it really looks like is we're taking a shared love of an activity. I love football. That young man loves football. I love volleyball. She loves volleyball. I'm taking the shared love we have for an activity plus the word on the front of my name, coach, which gives me some influence. I'm taking that shared love plus being a coach to impact that kid beyond today, beyond the season, and into their lives. It's coaching. It's coaching for a legacy. Your legacy is your athletes. Your legacy is not your win-loss record. And so, coaching for significance is where the sooner you get there, the bigger the paychecks. Coaching and teaching, or coaching and parenting, two very parallel tracks. There's very few things as a coach that you're not going to demand and require of your teams that a good parent isn't. To be disciplined, to be accountable, to be selfless, to be mentally tough, all the things that we try to teach intentionally through sport are the same exact things that good families are teaching their kids. In an athletic situation, the coach has one role: to motivate, to discipline, to teach, to correct, to praise, to all the things that a coach does. And the parent has a role that's different. They're still parenting, but they're not parenting during that time. So their role becomes to be an encourager, be a supporter, be somebody who's there to help and improve performance. I mean, honestly, the only reason you go to games to watch your kid play, and hopefully you're just by being there, you're hoping that you're not going to hurt performance, that you're going to help performance. And so one of the, some of the stuff we talk about in our presentation to parents is what kids need from you to help performance. And that whole presentation that we do all came from my athletes. And it's basically, here's what we'd like our parents to do and know, because number one, it'll create good memories, and number two, it'll help me perform better. And that presentation did not come from me trying to develop it. It came from me having a great mentor coach who suggested to me at a very early age as a coach to start getting feedback from my players. And so I started asking my players a series of questions with the intent and the purpose being to improve me as a coach. So I wasn't asking anything about parents. I was asking, what can I do as a coach that's going to allow you to have better memories and perform well? And so I started getting feedback. So the feedback from the questions I was asking, and I was reading them thinking, okay, that's really helpful as a coach, but whoa, wait a minute. That's me as a dad. Oh, wait a minute. I need to take those same pieces of advice and apply it in my own life as a father. And so, yes, there's a part of, there's a part of what we talk about is releasing your kid to the game. And that came from my kids who went on the furthest athletically. and they came back into my life, and I'd say, what happened along the way that allowed you to get to that level? And almost every single one, somewhere in the answer, said they had parents, and they may not have been their exact words, but they had parents who basically released them to the game, released them to the coach, released them to the experience. The experience became the kids. Okay, doesn't mean that they weren't there, doesn't mean that they weren't supported. It simply means that the kid, the responsibility and the accountability fell on the kid's shoulders. And the fact that, and that was almost, some of my kids who went on the very furthest said that was almost a statement of trust. My parents trust me enough to allow me to have the experience. They don't need to manipulate it or stand over it and control it, that they were allowing me to grow up within an athletic arena once they trusted the coach. And I think one of the biggest changes that I've seen in my lifetime in athletics is that youth sports have gone from peer control to adult control. Okay, when I was growing up, you got your buddies, you got on your bikes, you drove down to the closest park, you played the guys from the other neighborhood. You kept score, you called all the outs and safes, you made the decision, And now, from the time kids are 4 or 5 years old, they're put in adult uniforms and told where to stand and how, it's crazy. But back to your point on, I think that there are parents who definitely try to provide what they think is going to be a path toward future success athletically by making some decisions. One of the other biggest differences in my lifetime is that people who coach youth sports are now making a living doing it. And I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but it changes the parameters, doesn't it? If you got somebody who's making a living by coaching basketball all year round, he's going to try to, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. He's going to say to that kid, hey, for you to be good, you got to play this all year round. Okay, and I'm not saying that all the decisions are made monetarily, but there's a lot of them that are. And then you've got the fact that you throw in the factor of parents, these days, life is different with often a lot of parents working, both of them working, and not having maybe the time that they would. And so it's like, okay, I know that there's some out there that okay, I need to buy my kid an experience because we haven't got the time to actually provide an experience. So I've got to provide an experience for them. And if I can buy my kid a life, that can make it easier maybe for all of us. And for every parent that's kind of crazy and really there's 1,000 that are great and really see the big picture and understand the big picture and are doing things right. And even the ones that are like maybe you'd consider kind of crazy, their intent is probably really good. Their intent is doing what they think is best for their kid and maybe listening to people and taking in other advice. But, I think there's just way too many factors of why kids choose what they choose, but they need to choose. I think what you try to do as a parent of an athlete, as a young athlete, is to try to expose them to as many different opportunities as possible, not just athletics, but music and everything else. You try to expose them and then watch where's their passion. Where's their passion? I think people who've been through the process kind of understand what's going to come. There's going to be some successes, and there's going to be probably more struggles than successes. There's going to be struggles with relationships, struggles with success, struggles with playing time. There's going to be struggles, and so when these struggles come, we have several choices. One of them is to go in and try to protect them and save them, or one is to say this is a good opportunity for growth. I get calls and stuff all the time, or emails from people who are followers and saying, what do I do with this coach who constantly screams at my kid and or is mean spirited toward my son or daughter, and that being one of the worst things, and I'm saying, you know what? Every time there's an issue, it's an opportunity for growth for the kid, and so this particular opportunity is how to learn how to get along with a difficult person. Okay, and your kid's 14. and it's not going to be the last time they got to learn how to get along with a difficult person in their life. So if they can learn it in 14 playing soccer, man, they've got a huge advantage. So now your job as a parent is to, yes, you still want to kind of continue to make sure your kid is safe emotionally and physically. But once you know they're safe, and it may just be kind of an uncomfortable struggle that they're going through, is to provide them to say, okay, here's the opportunity for you to learn this. Here's how you deal with these things. Here's what you can do to grow as an individual here. And this isn't a life sentence. You've got this coach for one season, and I mean, and I'd like to be able to say yes, and give me the number of the phone, or to give me the phone number of the coach, because I'd love to deal with that person too. But the fact is, when we're talking about any kind of problems that come up, we always go back to what we teach competitors: is to control what you can control. Control the controllables. What can you control? You can't control the way the other person talks or speaks or treats you, or what they choose to as far as playing time is concerned. But you can choose how you react to it. You can choose your own attitude and your own effort. And so to focus on what you have control over and completely control those things. And yet, yes, we work with, I had a conversation with a 15-year-old girl the other day. Her mom had called me, and I said, how old is your daughter? And she said, 15. I said, you know what? If she wants to talk to me, have her call me. This isn't your problem. This is her. I'll be glad to talk to her. I said, and after I've talked to her, I'll be glad to talk to you. But I said, she's old enough that she can start taking on some of this responsibility herself. And it was a dealing with a very difficult coach who was very negative in this girl's eyes. And so, we talked about strategies for her and what she could control. Why does an adult treat a kid like that, is to get them to cower and to be afraid and to intimidate. I said, so don't be intimidated. Stand tall. No matter what she says to you or how she says it, stand tall, look her right in the eye. And I said, and when she's done, go, thanks, coach. And she goes, oh. I said, it'll totally diffuse the situation. She doesn't, they're not going to know what to do. And I said, say thanks, coach, and mean it. Hear what's being said, not how it's said, and look her right in the eye and say, thanks, coach. No matter how mean-spirited you think it. And so, but that's what she has control over. She called me back about a week later, and she said, oh my gosh, it's so great. Yeah, it's so great. Yeah. And she said, and now when she's critical of some of my teammates, I do what you talked about and go stand with my teammate. Yeah. One of the things we say is, kids shouldn't have to be good to get good out of sports. There should be benefits regardless of your ability by being part of something bigger than yourself, by being a competitor, by being in the arena. There's just a whole lot of things that, and oftentimes some of my kids who I coached, who have gone on to be great coaches, were not good players. And some of the kids who are closest in my life to me are kids who are not, they were the 12th kid out of 12. Okay, because they had a role, they knew their role, they embraced their role, and we tried to grow their role throughout the season. And so their value to me was not tied to anything other than, are you a great teammate? Yeah. Okay, so, there's just lots of opportunities for coaches to demonstrate value in kids and to be a confidence builder. One of the things we talk about in the book called, we have two books on confidence, one on how parents can raise a confident athlete, and another one on playing with confidence. And the playing with confidence is written for athletes to read and coaches to teach. And what we say that you could take almost any adolescent and you could say, I want you to make me two lists. One list over here of the people in your life, anybody in your life who you have a meaningful relationship with, any adult in your life who you have a meaningful relationship, aunts, uncles, parents, teachers, coaches, pastors, whoever. I want you to think about all those people, and then I want you to make a list of those people, and then I want you to put them over here in this category that says confidence builder, or over in this category that says confidence cutter. And I tell coaches they could do it faster than they could text. Yeah. You're either one side or the other. Yeah. And it's based upon how your relationship with the kid, your the ability for you to be trusted by a young person enough that you're going to see all different parts of their life.